Have you ever wondered how humans would fare if they faced the same catastrophic event that wiped out the dinosaurs 66 million years ago? What if the infamous asteroid that reshaped Earth's history struck again, plunging our modern world into chaos? Today, we'll explore the terrifying scenario of an asteroid impact, similar to the one that ended the age of dinosaurs. We'll examine the immediate devastation, the long-term environmental effects, and how humans might adapt and survive in such a post-apocalyptic world. Could we endure the same disaster that claimed the mighty dinosaurs? Let's dive in. In a scenario where the asteroid impacts Earth in the same location as it did millions of years ago, the Yucatan Peninsula, the devastation would be unimaginable. Central America and the southern United States would be vaporized almost instantly by the blast. A 6.2-mile-wide rock hitting Earth at 3 times the speed of a bullet would release so much energy that entire cities would be flattened in seconds. 100 million people would perish within minutes, and anyone within 930 miles of the impact would be killed by the sheer sound of the explosion. Those further from the blast would have a few more minutes, but not much else in terms of hope. Massive earthquakes, measuring between 9 and 11 on the Richter scale, would ripple across the planet, demolishing buildings, triggering landslides, and rupturing infrastructure. These quakes would be more intense than any in recorded human history, flattening urban centers and wiping out populations from every continent. On coastal areas, giant tsunamis, reaching over 328 feet tall, would slam into cities, drowning hundreds of millions of people and submerging land masses far inland. The combined result of these disasters would be a death toll in the billions within hours, as immediate destruction and loss of infrastructure claimed most of humanity. For those who might survive the initial impact, survival would depend heavily on how prepared they were. In the aftermath of such an event, the only safe place would be underground. Fallout shelters, designed to withstand nuclear blasts, could be repurposed for this type of disaster. These shelters, often equipped with basic provisions, would offer temporary refuge from the debris and toxic rain that would soon cover the planet. Countries like Switzerland, which has millions of fallout shelters, and regions with extensive underground infrastructure, such as subways and mine shafts, could see millions of survivors. Places like Derinkuyu, an ancient underground city in Turkey, and Nushabad in Iran, which are designed for long-term inhabitation, could be among the safest spots on Earth. These shelters would be the first line of defense against the fiery rains and molten debris that would follow the impact. However, most shelters are only equipped for short-term emergencies, not the prolonged nightmare that would follow this apocalyptic event. Within hours of the asteroid's impact, molten rock would be blasted into the atmosphere, raining down on the Earth for days. Fires would ignite across the globe, fueled by the intense heat, turning cities, forests, and farmlands into vast, charred wastelands. Massive wildfires, similar to those that occurred after the asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs, would ravage the land, leaving little to no refuge for those caught above ground. For those fortunate enough to survive in underground bunkers, venturing outside would be impossible for months or even years. The sky would be filled with fire and ash, making any exposure to the outside world a death sentence. Long-term survival would depend entirely on the resources available within these shelters, as global wildfires would consume much of Earth's remaining vegetation, causing widespread famine. Perhaps the most catastrophic effect of the asteroid would be the enormous dust clouds it would kick up, shrouding Earth in darkness for over a decade. This lack of sunlight, coupled with plummeting temperatures, would result in what scientists call a nuclear winter. The planet would be locked in a freezing, sunless state, leading to the collapse of agriculture. With crops unable to grow, food shortages would follow, bringing famine on an unprecedented scale. Humanity would face the greatest challenge in history, surviving without sunlight, crops, or functioning ecosystems. Most modern food systems would collapse, as they depend heavily on sunlight and large-scale agriculture. With food stocks depleted and fresh water contaminated by acid rain, starvation would become the greatest threat to human survival. For humans to survive this post-apocalyptic world, a shift to subterranean living would be essential. Countries with advanced infrastructure in terms of fallout shelters, bunkers, and underground facilities would have the best chance of survival. These underground cities could be powered by geothermal or nuclear energy, with vertical farms being the primary source of food. Iceland, for example, which has abundant geothermal energy, could become a critical location for long-term human survival. Its underground facilities could be expanded to house thousands, if not millions, of survivors, providing both power and heat without relying on the sun. In these underground enclaves, humanity could scrape by on a combination of rationed food, scavenging, and rudimentary agriculture. Without sunlight, traditional agriculture would be impossible. However, certain food sources could thrive in these conditions. Fungi, which do not rely on sunlight and can grow in the aftermath of fires, could become a staple food source. Harvesting mushrooms and other fungi could allow humans to sustain themselves without access to traditional crops. Algae farming could also offer a solution. While it might not be the most appetizing option, algae is highly efficient, can be grown vertically, and requires minimal resources. It's already being studied as an emergency food source and could be cultivated in underground facilities with artificial light. While the vast majority of humanity would struggle to survive, some might find refuge in high-tech bunkers built by governments and the ultra-wealthy. Bunkers like the Raven Rock Mountain complex in Pennsylvania, said to contain extensive infrastructure, could house thousands of people and sustain them for years. These facilities are equipped with water reservoirs, food supplies, and even small-scale agriculture, making them self-sufficient for extended periods. Similarly, luxury bunkers have been built in places like New Zealand, where the ultra-rich have taken steps to prepare for global disasters. These bunkers come equipped with years of provisions and even luxury amenities. While these high-tech shelters might offer long-term protection, they represent a tiny fraction of the world's population. For the rest of humanity, survival would rely on creativity, cooperation, and sheer willpower. Once the dust settles, literally, and the skies begin to clear, humanity would face the daunting task of rebuilding. The world would be unrecognizable, with vast swathes of land turned to wasteland and much of the infrastructure destroyed. Those who survive the asteroid's impact would likely live in a drastically altered climate, swinging between extreme cold and scorching heat due to the volatile atmosphere. For years, humanity would scrape by in underground shelters, relying on stockpiled food, fungi farms, and algae cultivation. Rebuilding society above ground would take decades, if not centuries, and much of human knowledge and technology could be lost in the process. The short answer is yes. Humans could survive the same asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs. However, the cost would be immense, with billions perishing in the immediate aftermath and the long-term effects of the disaster. Those fortunate enough to find refuge in underground shelters, particularly in countries with advanced infrastructure like Switzerland, Iceland, and New Zealand, might be able to scrape by in the years following the impact. In addition to the asteroid that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs, there have been even larger impacts in Earth's history, and future asteroid impacts could be similarly catastrophic. For instance, the Redefort asteroid, which struck around 2 billion years ago, was likely between 12.4 and 15.5 miles wide and impacted Earth at an immense speed. The resulting crater, Vredefort, is the largest known on Earth, stretching over 170 miles in diameter. This impact would have been one of the most energetic events in Earth's history, causing unparalleled destruction. If an asteroid of this magnitude struck today, it would result in global fires, mile-high tsunamis, and a mass extinction event far exceeding the dinosaur extinction in scale. Even smaller asteroids, like the 560-foot-wide Didymos, which orbits near Earth, could cause devastating destruction. If such an asteroid were to impact, it would create a crater over 7 miles wide and trigger magnitude 7.4 earthquakes. Tremors would be felt hundreds of miles away, and windows could be shattered across entire countries. While astronomers continuously monitor these large near-Earth objects, impacts from asteroids of a mile or more in width could still lead to civilization-ending events. Such an asteroid could disrupt the atmosphere, leading to catastrophic climate changes that would persist for years, potentially wiping out most of life on Earth. Could the colossal Vredefort asteroid have reshaped life on Earth if it struck today? Or would advanced technologies and global preparedness give humanity a fighting chance against such a catastrophe? Share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more.